Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of The Pulse. For those of you who are new to The Pulse is a multi-webinar series that looks at some of the key aspects and issues and ideas that are taking place across a number of different industries, be it gaming, film, architecture, automation. And what we try to do is try to look into those new ideas and new concepts. If you'd like to, please go on to unrealengine.com for any of our previous episodes, which will be a really interesting place for you to see some of what we've done before. This afternoon, we're going to look at some of the digital transformation that's taking place across the real estate industry and how that digital transformation has really been leveraged by the number of people who use the technology, specifically the stakeholders and the developers and the people who really get the best benefit out of that particular technology. What we're also going to do is we're going to try and focus on visualization. We're going to try and focus on how visualization and real-time technology is being utilized to really help people visualize and interact and communicate with others across the entire built environment. Before we introduce our panel, my name is James Scott. I am the Director of the Real Estate Technology Initiative at MIT's Center for Real Estate. What that is a research platform that really tries to merge the Center's real estate research over the last 30 years with MIT's technological know-how and really get underneath and get behind and understand what's been taking place with this new wave of real estate technology, or prop tech for a better term. So let's begin. I'd love to introduce our panel. We have Dorian Vee from Immerza. We have, of course, the wonderful Edward Wagner from JLL and the fabulous Sam Anderson from Epic Games. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So first up, we have Sam Anderson. Sam, lovely to meet you. Please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm super happy to be here. I'm Sam Anderson, Technical Marketing Manager at Epic Games. But prior to Epic, I was at Shop Architects, working as a visualization specialist focused on research and development. So I was diving into real-time rendering about 5 or 6 years ago, building out virtual reality experiences for developers so that tenants could see what a future space would look like, and eventually started working on mobile applications as well. So having augmented reality or having renderings all at your fingertips on your phone. So that's kind of a little bit of how I dove into this world.
Very cool. Any particular developments that you got to work on? Any of the slick, cool ones across the Manhattan skyline?
Yeah, well, I know we're currently in Brooklyn right now, so I had the pleasure of working on the Brooklyn Tower, not too far from here. So that was one of the instances where we got to use the mobile application for that tower.
Fantastic. Really great to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Next up, Edward. Lovely to meet you. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Eddie Wagner. I am the CIO of Digital for JLL. And you might be wondering, why is a real estate company sitting at a table with people who are leading in technology? Here's why. Buildings are everywhere. And if you think about the impact to humans, there's massive opportunities as we start leveraging technology and data to deliver better experiences, more value for the owners, and do it in a much more sustainable way. So we may not have been at the table in the past, but you're going to see us at the table, every table in the future, as we better leverage technology and data to create a better built environment for everyone in the world.
Fantastic. Any cool innovations out there that JLL are starting to look at? Maybe give us a little glimpse into the future.
So you're inviting me to take over the whole session and talk about it?
Yeah.
You know what? We could do a separate session, but let's just say we have we created a venture fund called JLL Spark that has invested over $300 million in over 40 different technologies. If we were to go through them, I guarantee you I'd get reactions like, well, why are you investing in that? It's because we're thinking bigger and broader than we ever have. We're thinking about real estate from your viewpoint, not our viewpoint. We're thinking about it from the way the people that use it think about it. We've also transformed our entire technology group and made a lot of acquisitions to put ourselves more in the position of helping the people who actually use the real estate, as well as our clients, which are the owners, the occupiers, the people that buy and sell. So it's been very transformational.
Very cool. And last but in no means least, Dorian, great to meet you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am Dorian Vee, co-founder and CTO of Immerza. Immerza is a technology company focused really on real-time technologies and how that applies throughout the entire development process, from entitlements through design, marketing, and then post-occupancy.
Very cool. How did you get there? That's not a simple just journey, because this is a whole new wave of things. So I have a feeling that there's a story behind this.
There certainly is. Immerza actually evolved out of the design field. It started as our in-house tools at an architecture firm, Hoyt Architects, and we began developing in Unreal Engine over a decade ago. And what we realized was there was a severe communication breakdown in the industry. It was, we jokingly called it the dog watching television, because you knew people were looking at stuff, but you had no idea what they were actually seeing. And so we really set out to solve that. So we started writing our own tools on top of Unreal Engine. Our clients started closing multi-million-dollar deals with it, and we realized, okay, there's really something happening here, and that's what launched Immerza.
Very cool. Great. It's so lovely to have you all with us this morning. Let's start out with an easy question. Everybody continues to read real estate, technology, a little bit like, oil and vinegar. Does it work? Slow to adopt? Lots of articles have been written over the last few years as to why the real estate industry is maybe one of the laggards when it comes to technology. But maybe, Sam, we'll start with you. So how is technology currently solving some of the problems around real estate and real estate development?
Yeah, well, I know that there are a lot of different people involved with the real estate. Like, we know that there are developers, obviously, but we have everyone, including your community. Your dog watching the television is going to be occupying a space in the real estate sector. And there's so many different components of people who are going to be experiencing real estate. So I know that buildings have been built for many, many years in the past without technology, but there are some wonderful advances that are coming with some of the real-time technology. I know we're going to dive into a lot of that today, but I just want to kind of upfront say that it's not just about the new condo going up around the corner of the street. It really is everyone has a stake within this.
Absolutely. Dorian, I might ask you the same question.
Yeah, we've seen it's, and it's not just real estate, but it's design as well. There's been I don't know if it's a resistance, but set in their ways. They said, well, this has worked for hundreds of years. We're still laying bricks and, still designing the same way, and why change what works? But there has to be a change. Like from the design side, there was absolute communication breakdowns. That means cost overruns, that means errors, that means all kinds of different impacts. And from the real estate side, that carries through to higher rents, higher mortgages, not well-designed things maybe not built as the designers intended. So yeah, the tech is changing all that.
Cool. Edward, I left you to last because I have a funny feeling that you'll have a lot to say on this particular aspect because just what you've seen over the last few years.
A lot to say. I was sitting here, as you said, real estate is a laggard, and I thought, we are, but I bristle at that a little bit. I mean, we're here in New York City. Real estate people built the Empire State Building almost a century ago, and all of you still use it. You take pictures of it. You know about it. You're still using work that we did before the dawn of technology.
Not to bring Irishness into it, but it was March 17th when it topped out, and it was that was when they topped out at over 100 stories in less than a year, and it's still considered the high point of construction technology. And here we are, almost 100 years later, and we haven't got better. So with that,
you're making my point. It's been great things, and the real estate industry has been very successful. Like I said, there's buildings everywhere. No matter where you are watching this, look out your window. You'll see the work of real estate people. What is changing is think about the power you have in your pocket with your mobile technology. Everyone on the street now is interacting with things around them, and people want to interact with the buildings. They want better experiences. People want to be able to do things more effectively, more efficiently, and in some cases with more cost effectiveness in a cheaper way. The only way we do that is by better leveraging the technologies and the data that's coming out. So while we may have been laggards in the past and we've been very successful, the opportunities for the future are dependent on us using the technologies and becoming leaders in the way that we use it.
Very cool. I'm just curious, I did use a term there, which was laggard. Real estate as an industry has been considered one of the industries that's probably been slower to adopt technology over the course of time. However, we've probably gone through one of the greatest social experiments in the history of mankind, with everybody being sent home to work during this time, during COVID. Have you found that technology across this industry has been more receptive to the people that work in it? Are people looking to adopt more? Are people looking to embrace what change is possibly out there for an industry
Absolutely.
that's not necessarily known for it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that from, Immerza was actually one of the fortunate companies that COVID was actually really, really good to us because people were stuck at home. They needed virtual ways to see things, they needed virtual ways to talk about things, and real-time technology facilitated that for us. We could show future environments, we could show entire projects as if they were built. And from a sales perspective, people are touring buildings as if it were an existing project from their couch. And yeah, everybody needed that.
Very
So
cool.
I think one thing to kind of add on to your point is, you know, everyone is able to get into Zoom now. Like, if you would have told me 4 years ago, hey, you want to jump on a Zoom and like talk this through, I probably would have laughed and been like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And so I think that now the ability for anyone to be able to get onto Zoom, even the understanding the user experience, the UI and how one does that, it's these little skills and knowledge of technology that I think are becoming a little bit more accessible and well-rounded within the population, so people feel more comfortable to get into those spaces. So I
Much
hope-
so, yeah. And
yeah.
I'll expand on that even. We are able to meet a client we've never met before digitally, show them what we do virtually, show them real-time tools, close the deal, get a check, deliver the project virtually, and then their buyers visit it virtually and then write them a check. And that's all.
The whole transaction
whole
is
everything.
done virtually.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention names at the table here, but I do remember a few years ago being in a specific office, you know, Midwestern city, and in one of their boardrooms there was a number of headsets that were, you know, kind of gathering dust in the corner. And I asked the people there, they said, you know, what is that? And they said, you know what, it was headsets. We looked into this. We tried to, you know, promote sort of a virtual understanding of what a real estate development was, but their clients just weren't engaged with it. They still felt that they needed to get the smell of the area. They needed to walk the streets. That old school real estate developer, sort of, or owner operator, they needed to just immerse themselves within it, that real place. But I get the sense that that's changing. I'm going to focus this, you know, kind of direct over towards you, Edward, a little bit. You know, have you found that, you know, that this change has definitely taken place over the last few years, and how receptive people are, you know, towards using technology, specifically at a virtual level?
So let's be honest, that was my boardroom. He was in seeing that
You called it
equipment.
out right
Let's just
here.
call it out, yeah.
Okay.
But you know, when you try new things, you quite often get resistance. And to the earlier conversation, I think the one thing that we've all experienced over the last couple of years that COVID did for us, it did two things. It accelerated some trends that were existing, and it destroyed a lot of resistance. Because, you know, historically people were like, my process is okay, or I don't need that technology or whatnot, much like the headsets you talked about. And I think COVID forced everyone to change. And Sam, as you talked about, we're doing things that people would have thought we were crazy if we, you know, could go back in time and tell them. And so I think that breaking down that resistance, that showing that new way, that forcing people to think differently and pulling down that resistance has opened up people's eyes, both during COVID, about how they could leverage technology, but also I'm finding a lot of people are starting to say, with an open mind, what should I be doing next? How can I use technology to better visualize the new space I need? I can't go back to the old space. How do I optimize the space? How do I create a better experience? It's a conversation we knew was going to come. It's just accelerated, and now everybody's talking about it. And I think that's the biggest change that we're seeing in breaking down those barriers, people being more interested, and instead of resistance, it's more of a willingness to look at and explore and understand the opportunities.
Super. So with that, and kind of develop this out a little bit, what questions are you seeing that are being asked across the real estate industry that technology can really solve for? Where is, you know, what are the biggest issues that are out there in the minute that you think that technology can really facilitate?
Communication's a huge one. When we're talking to maybe a client we haven't worked with before, there's definitely some people that still believe it's better to sell the dream and hold back information from people, but it's really the buyers who are demanding more information. They want to see everything. They want to remove the fear of the unknown. And that's critical to the process.
Well, the data that's now available to a consumer of real estate is incredible. Like, I mean, just simply, like, I mean, on residential alone, what you get on Zillow, what you get on Redfin, what you get there is, it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there. And that empowers the consumer. It makes them feel like they're in control of it a little
And
bit.
making a good decision and removing that fear. What we always tell new clients is it is about that removing fear of the unknown. People make decisions based off of that. And if you're able to do that and do that effectively, you've got a customer for life.
I have to admit, as a consumer, I know that there's all the Matterport walkthroughs and scans of buildings. I'm embarrassed to admit how much time I have spent in a walkthrough. I'm like, no one needs to know that information, yet here I am expelling that. But you're right, it's removing the unknown, the fear. I can take it, and I'm like, let me go look through the kitchen one more time, or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is taking that to the next level using real-time technology. So what if you have a person in that space, and then they can make their own decisions, or like switch a configurator around to say, hey, what if the furniture was here? What if the wall was this color instead? And so that engagement and that interaction, I think, is a critical point, and something that we should explore as we move forward with this technology.
It's interesting. You started out, you gave examples of like home buying, something that's very personal, and there's a lot of data and information out there available that consumers are using, but you don't see that same thing in the commercial world up until recently.
Yeah.
It's why JLL, we bought 2 AI companies. Notice I didn't say software, we bought the whole companies. You're not thinking we're a laggard so much now, are you?
Yeah.
But it's because, to Dorian's point, we're recognizing that people want more information, they need more information, they want it faster, they want it better, so there's big opportunities there. But it's not just in having that data, coming back over to something Sam said, it's that visualization. And you did a true confession, I'll do one now.
Please do.
One of the first times that we talked, you made a comment about the visualization software and walking into a building, and I remember thinking, I've probably walked into more buildings, commercial buildings all over the world than you have, so show me something new. And you showed me that technology, and literally my mind just started spinning with all, and if you remember, I was like, can it do this? Well, can I send you this data? Well, could we do that? That so many people are visual learners.
Yeah.
And I can have the data, but then when I see that visualization like you did, creativity turned on. I mean, maybe you were trying to mute me because I was going, crazy with it.
Never.
But, well, there will be some people that would mute. But it was just the ideas that started flowing when I saw that. And that's where I think that I don't want to use the word magic, but I'm going to. I think that's where the magic in some of this is where when people see some of that, it's that old saying, seeing is believing. I think people will start thinking of all these things that maybe they've never thought about and opportunities. And that's the magic of data, that's the magic of the technology, that's the magic of the visualization.
Very cool. Sam, just a little comment. You mentioned the financial analysis, and I'm already thinking how powerful a tool this is. And if you were able to add that in as a layer on top of this, how incredible that would be, especially looking from the development standpoint of not only the real estate developer, but community engagement when you're showcasing this to see what works, what doesn't work, and how valuable that would be across every single city across the globe. And that's something really, really powerful. But that kind of leads me on to the next question, and it's, who really benefits from this technology? Who benefits the most? Is it the real estate developer? Is it the people who live in the community? Is it the architect? Is it the end user? Who's the person that actually ends up getting the most benefit from this?
From our perspective, it's all of the above. It is literally everybody, and it depends on what stage of the project it is. It changes who's the benefactor. I was talking about it a bit earlier. In the early stages, it's maybe the developer who's figuring out if they can buy something. That moves along. Then it's the community stakeholders who are the benefactor of it. Then it's the design team and the developer. Then as it moves into marketing, then it's both the sales team, but also the buyer or the future tenant. And then moves into post-occupancy of, okay, now you own this asset and you have these tools to figure out, hey, where is that pipe in my wall? And where is my water heater? You've got this digital twin of your residence.
And I hope that the city as a whole, can also see benefit because of some of those
Absolutely.
digital twins.
Yeah.
You're starting to put sensors in, understand what the occupancy is like, what is the
Very much
airflow in there, so I can make more efficient decisions. And then in the future, be able to make design decisions based off of that.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite ways of including that information is, there's all this GIS data out there. Now we can bring that into the game engine, and now when I look at a place, I could walk into the room and see, okay, there's a park right over there, there's the closest line right
Absolutely.
here. Instead of going home and researching where all of that stuff is, you can see that visually, have that information embedded into the experience and be able to get that.
Yeah,
And I think architects are going to be able to take advantage of that as they're making design decisions. And so my hope is that the city as a whole will start to see some benefits to this. And for me, as I live in the community, I'm walking down the street, there's new construction, I take a look at the scaffolding, and they'll have a rendering of what is going to be here. Now imagine if there was a QR code there and I could scan it with my phone, and the building would pop up on my phone. I could take a look at it, I could perhaps walk in, see what it's going to look like inside. I'm going to have a little bit more investment. I'm going to be excited about it. Maybe I would even go to the community board for my next one and be able to put some input into the new buildings going up. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity here to engage with people within the community.
But Sam, I love talking about the people, walking around, and there's thousands of people walking on the streets right below us right now. They don't know who we are. They don't care that we're talking about real estate. What they care about is the experience that they're having. And it's not any one building, it's all buildings, and it's the environment around them. Think about it. You can have the best building in the world, but if traffic is impossible that I hate driving to it, I'm not going to go. If I can't find parking, that's going to impact my experience of it. And so it's not just the individual asset, it's also how it interacts with the environment around it, how people think about it, and how it integrates with it. And I think that's, when we start taking ourselves out of just the real estate mindset and we start thinking about its impact and its integration with the environment around and the people, that's when you start realizing not just the opportunities, but almost the imperative that you use technology and data in ways that we've never thought about in real estate to deliver to all those people on the street that don't know who we are, but they're expecting a better experience. They're expecting a more sustainable environment. They're expecting a better integration in their world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my favorite films, this is from the 80s, but it's a documentary that studied the way that people move through plazas and spaces. So whether or not if there's shade there's gonna be more people congregated in the shade. If there is movable furniture, before you sit down, you're always going to move it a little bit before you sit in it. And I think giving that flexibility of engagement is actually really important, and how a person feels as they go through a space. So I think there's going to be a combination of looking at the way that we've always studied and researched how people move through space, but then also utilizing the new technology to understand if there's increased people moving to a city, how are people going to go through the traffic. So I think kind of thinking of both of those kind of old school study, how are people moving throughout space? How have people moved throughout space? Now, how is it going to be predicted in the future? And then how can we build and design buildings to better facilitate that and make sure that people are feeling comfortable as they're moving through a space?
Sam brings up a documentary, so I've got to bring up a movie. But no technology person can resist bringing up Star Trek.
There
And
you
if
go.
you think about it, think about the holodeck. That's visualization. It was science fiction back then. The technology that you demoed to me, it's getting a little closer to reality. But if you think about that movie and the way that they didn't have to just think, they could actually visualize it. They could actually walk through it. There was a whole different experience. As you were talking, I was thinking, that's actually an example I think people could get their heads wrapped around about the potential. And back then in that movie, it was science fiction. But if you look at some of these technologies, it's becoming much more reality. When you're doing a design, before you build it and then realize, oh, this is not exactly what I thought based on the one-dimensional image.
Yeah.
What if you could do like a holodeck or a visualization and go, okay, it looked great on paper, but as I walk through it, maybe I want to move that a little bit. Or I loved your example about positioning of lights in a place. I think that's the big opportunity around some of these technologies.
Absolutely. I'm going to get a little bit more real with this, and going back to one of the earlier things we talked about. can this technology really truly provide a immersive experience for the end user in the same way as if they visited the sites, the same way that old school real estate developer needs to tramp the ground, smell the air, see what's beside it, and give that person that understanding? Can we get to that point? And then I'll add to that. In an industry where we're known for being quite skeptical and wanting to see specific properties, can we get to a point where, just as you described earlier on, a place where actually you will buy a property, you will rent a property, you will rent an office space sight unseen. You'll actually just put on the headset. You'll use the technology that you have available to you with the hardware that you have and actually make a decision off that. Can we get to that point?
Oh, we're at that point.
We're at that
no,
point, right?
absolutely. Yeah, Immerza exists because we're at that point. The amount of decisions getting made using technology built on top of game engines is kind of mind-blowing to me, because we also have data attached to what our clients are using, and how many transactions we have witnessed that have happened sight unseen. The dollar amounts that total out to mind-blowing to me. To answer your question, are we at the point yet that you can go and experience a place and smell the restaurants and really experience a neighborhood? I don't think we're 100% there yet, but we're getting really, really close.
It's going to come down to when it's appropriate to do so. When you walk into a space and walk on the hardwood floor, what does it feel like versus a marble? These little things that are just going to be very difficult to replicate. But I think it does open up the market to people. So we've seen people during COVID be able to make those purchases without being in person. And now it just makes it much more informed before they make those decisions. So I think it reminds me of now when I go to a doctor, I make the decision, do I want to do a virtual call with the doctor or do I want to go into the office? When is it more appropriate? And I think that model might lend itself to the way that we approach virtual experiences now. Are you spending a big chunk of money on something? How important is it for you to be there? Or can you make the decision based off this virtual experience that you now have that you didn't have in the past?
Sam, spot on. We started talking about the impact of COVID. And pre-COVID, if we had suggested to people, rent this space, you don't have to go see it, we would have gotten massive pushback. What we found during COVID is people, they couldn't travel, but they still had lease events. And so people were very willing to do a down select by viewing online or by using technology, and then they would go visit their final four, if you will. Smaller spaces, we're seeing a lot more transactions, just like people will buy a house virtually online. But just as people that are buying the mega mansions are probably going to go and tour and get some more personalized service, people that are taking down some of the big spaces over in Hudson Yards, they're going to look at. So I think, again, it's giving people information and visualization so they can make faster decisions, and then they can choose, as you said, where do I go, when do I go physically. Right now with a lot of the technology, you can see and you can hear, but smell, touch, taste is not quite there. But if you follow technology, there's new technologies coming out that's enabling some of the tactile. I saw one the other day that talked about the smell. I'm kind of wondering how that will work. Maybe taste is not quite there yet.
There's a couple companies
but
trying to
it's
address
coming.
that.
It's
Yeah,
coming.
for sure.
And so there could very well be the day where you could get that real experience. Just like, there's new technology out for, it's like an iPad, but when you write on it, it feels like you're writing with a pen on paper, because some of us, even though we're technologists, we still like the paper feel. That's what enabled me to make the transition. Yeah. And so I think, as we get more and more of those senses, if you will, built into some of those technologies, along with the visualization, you're going to see a lot more opportunity in people leveraging that, again, to go faster, to be better.
Super. This actually really leads me into the next question, which is great. So what is the evolution, the next stage of this particular technology? What does it look like? Is it a fully operational digital twin? Can we use this visualization to show what's taking place in real time for what's taking place within the building? Is it a fully immersive digital world? Where is this going?
I almost hope that we can't even pinpoint it because we have,
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
good point.
we
Really good
have
point.
all of these creative people, such as
Yeah.
you and your firm, you know, a lot of creative artists out there. We have students who are learning how to code now in school, and all of the technology is becoming a lot more accessible to people. And then we also have the experts in real estate. So how I hope that we can't even say, oh, this is what it's going to look like in the future. I want to not know what it's going to. I want to see what the creative people and what the experts collaborate and can produce through their experiences. They all have different strengths and stuff. So, you know, I think it's easy to be like, oh, it's all digital twins or it's all immersive experiences. But I hope we think outside of the box. This is, I think, why conversations such as this is so important, to kind of get a little bit of inspiration and get a glimpse of what's possible, but how can I take it further? So that's my hope, is that we can't quite pinpoint it yet, but I'm excited to see what happens.
I feel like I keep saying, great point, Sam, but
Yeah.
great point, Sam. But think about, the iPhone was introduced 15 years ago. None of us could have predicted the changes that would happen or how it would become, iPhone and Android so integral to our lives and all the things we can do on it. Before we started, we were actually talking about the different things we were doing with our different devices and learning from each other. All I knew back when it was introduced was, that's different, that's cool, I need to watch that. Same thing here. We know it's going to impact visualization, the things we've talked about. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think that's why, as you said, conversations with people that are in different industries or that think differently or that challenge your way of thinking are so important. You know, get the people to make the provocative statements. I'll make a provocative statement. It's a little bit of a ploy to get us back. Invite us back a year from now. I bet you in less than a year, we will have examples of how this technology is being used in real estate that we're not even thinking about right now because of the way pace of change is happening, the way real estate is much more open to using technology than we ever were before, the way we're working with people like MIT to think out of our boxes. I guarantee you, a year from now, we'll go, wow, didn't think about that.
Well, with that, you know, we won't be able to tell where we are from a year from now with progress. But what are some of the challenges that we're facing today? What are some of the issues that we're, and then from that, how are we starting to address them? What are we thinking about here? You know, what are some of the things that are really creating a roadblock to allowing this technology to immerse itself to the greatest possible amount of people?
I think one of the biggest ones in the real estate industry is fear. You know, I've got a limited amount of money to invest. Remember what I talked about earlier, if you're an owner, you've got to make sure that you drive value and that you're getting a return on that investment. If you're an occupier, you're wanting to make sure where you spend your money benefits your people. So how do you make the right investment or the right bet, if you will? And there's so many opportunities. There's so many different technologies. And that's why I said earlier, it's okay to partner. You don't have to have the expertise inside. You can reach out to people like me and my company. You can reach out to Sam, you can reach out. There's a lot of us that we can just tell you what we're thinking, we can share with you, which will help you think through your situation and what's the right solution for you. So I think fear is one of the biggest challenges that we need to help people overcome.
Removing the fear of the unknown. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's important, you brought up the word investment. And so if you think about it a little bit more as you're investing in this as technology, instead of thinking, oh, we're changing our workflows, we're changing the way that we do things, I feel like that can be very daunting to say, come in and be like, oh, we're changing everything that we did previously to this new workflow. That's scary. And so if you think about it a little bit more as an investment of what's the return on that, what could be possible, and like you said, having these discussions with partners and people who do this for a living and understanding, how, paint the picture for me.
Yeah,
what is it
exactly.
going to look like? Where's the investment? We have that expertise. These partners have this expertise. Don't be afraid to go speak to them, because it's just going to benefit your product in the end.
And it's also partners, it's internal partners. It's, every organization has a CIO, and we've got a lot to offer. And all kidding aside, if you think about the CIO's world is basically, the digital world. I'm enabling Teams, I'm enabling Zoom, I'm enabling email. Real estate, as we've talked about, is a laggard, doesn't use technology. That intersection of digital and physical, that's where the future is that intersection. And so getting your existing IT teams, they have expertise that they can lend, as well as all of us externally, that will help real estate better understand some of the technologies available and how they can be integrated and the right approaches. And so can't emphasize that partnership even more, but I also think CIOs are going to have to get a lot more involved in helping their real estate teams and their organizations better understand how to derive massive impact out of these innovations, how to do it the right way, the right timing, and they can also help get the right investments from the company.
As we talk through this, I can see so many benefits and so many offshoots from this. You know, obviously we spoke about the marketing aspect and the high-end developers and even the lower developers, but there is something that's really starting to come out to me a little bit. It's the city, and the built environment itself and the community that lives in those areas. There's incredible benefit for this if they're able to be engaged and see what's about to be provided to them. And that's something, you know, I think that really should be showcased as much as anything. I don't want to go too MIT on this, but that's, you know, there is a greater benefit to all mankind in producing a much better built environment for everybody through this. And it's truly
Very
wonderful.
much so. Yeah, very much
So, you know, kind of as we come to the end of this and we kind of start to think about, you know, closing off the conversation, where do we go from here? What are the next steps from this? You know, we talked about the technological advancement, but what are the next steps for this particular technology?
That's a great question. No, I think from Immersa's perspective, we do get to see a lot of projects on a global scale. Companies like JLL that are really forward-thinking and really, you know, adopting technology and open to adopting technology. Larger companies like that are, you know, doing big projects and helping others do big projects. Like you'd mentioned, it is, you know, on a city scale where we are going to, you know, experience and really get to test ideas and simulate, and we haven't even covered the simulation space and, you know, self-driving cars and using this tech, you know, to train those cars and make safer environments, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But for what's next, it's a really interesting journey to see just how all of these different techs are coming together to really help users experience the future. So
I love what Dorian said about there's a question. There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I think people need to not be afraid to ask those questions. I'm going to bring Star Trek back into it. You know, there's a whole universe of opportunity out there. And if you remember the tagline, boldly going where no one's gone before, I think we as real estate people and technologists and researchers and education, we all need to boldly go forward and look for those opportunities. Not be afraid to have the conversations, because we won't always have the answers, but just sometimes asking those questions and getting the conversation going is so important. And so I think, you know, this episode, it can't be one and done. This is the beginning. It's the beginning of conversations for a lot of people. It's the beginning for people that are watching this to take the next step and start thinking about the impact to their organizations. And then don't do it alone. I mean, reach out to us and say, hey, here's my situation. You know, Sam, what do you think in my unique situation? Or Eddie or Dorian, you know, that's the way that we move it forward, is all working together, not being afraid to ask the questions.
Yeah,
just like
good
you
point.
said, the whole city, it's all of us coming together, because truly, buildings are everywhere. They impact every human on the face of the earth. Even if you're somewhere like in an Amazon rainforest, the impact the built environment has on the environment is impacting you there. And so we've got massive opportunities in the way we use technology to benefit every human on earth.
So we at Epic are trying to make this information much more readily available. So, you know, this is all very important information. It can be daunting. So we do have a new real estate hub that is coming to unrealengine.com. So if anyone is curious of where do I start, how do I begin, I'm confused, I'd encourage people to go check that out. Go look at our real estate hub. It's going to have customer stories, success stories, examples. It's going to have a lot of our partners, such as you, Dorian, and see all the amazing stuff that they're doing. And I think it's going to provide a great inspiration for people to, you know, get the wheels turning, to understand what they can do. And it's going to have a lot of that information there of, you know, all the different capabilities of Unreal Engine and Twinmotion and any of our products, and how can we help you get there? And also, how can we connect you to our partners? So I think there's a lot of wonderful opportunity to see the collaboration between the real estate developers and some of our partners, because it's we've talked a lot about the kind of diverse strength sets that are there. And so I'm hopeful that this conversation will, I guess, empower people to reach out to those partners, to reach out to the people who are creating this and see what is possible for the future. So I know
That's a
I
great
will,
point.
like, I still love looking at those examples because it helps me, even as a designer or a visual artist, understand what are other people doing, how can I get there, how can I reach out to people to help get there.
Edward?
I was going to say another true confession. I've been in real estate
love
technology for a very long time. Probably seen more real estate and real estate technology implementations than the majority of people in the world. My eyes have been open and I've learned things just with the collaboration that we did to put this together. So if I can learn things, everybody can. And I would also say there's a lot of focus that goes on around the office environment. But you know, the doctor's office, as you mentioned, there's a building there, healthcare's a building. You brought up, you know, schools and universities. There's a lot of opportunity no matter what asset class you're in. And so I think, you know, everyone should come and look. You know, the work that MIT does, I don't think, you know, a lot of people understand the work you guys publish around real estate and some forward-thinking technologies and some predictions about when it should come around. There's a lot of help out there that I just think people aren't aware of. And now, coming out of COVID, as we're seeking to, you know, be different, incorporate the lessons that we've learned, this is a great time to add these additional, we'll call it tools, into your toolkit as you think about your strategy.
Great comment. Before we finish up, I'm in the very privileged position here with you all that I get to sit on the fence. And I mean, I'm just going to throw out sort of a provocative statement just to get your gauge on it. You know, those who don't embrace this technology will ultimately be left behind and will find themselves essentially in the wake of their competitors within the industry. What would you say to that?
I would say you're quoting me on that because I've been
I'll
saying
let
that.
him say that.
I felt, do you know what? I felt after the abuse that I gave you slightly early on about the.
It's no abuse. It's all love.
It was only fair.
You know, I think if you're going to be fair to people, then you need to be truthful to people. And just as if you saw me walking toward the edge and realized that I didn't see that I was about to fall off the edge and hurt myself, you know, you should say something. I feel like I should say something to people who maybe don't believe this is real or aren't going to embrace it. I'll make a provocative statement even more than yours. 5 years from now, I don't think you'll be in your role because I think you're going to put your organization at a competitive disadvantage. We saw that during COVID. The CIOs and the people that already had remote work strategies maybe in place in a couple of places, they pivoted faster. The people who had never thought about it, they struggled. They started realizing that when their office shut down, their company shut down too. And there's some real war stories, they're not out in the public domain, of CIOs and companies that for a couple of weeks had massive negative impacts because they had never thought forward. I think the same thing's going to happen in this area, and willing to have the debate with anybody that wants to challenge that or debate me on it, because I think that just like here, we could share some things for them to think about where they might realize, yeah, maybe there's something there. Maybe I should take more action.
To answer your question, no, that absolutely is the case. I'd love to say we win, you know, every proposal that we go after, but that's not always the case. But we have talked to somebody, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do real time. We're just going to do, you know, renderings. That's what we're going to do. In the same city with a competitor that did do real-time tech and immersive tech in their sales process, and within the same year, that competitor did so much better that the client that we didn't win the first time comes back and says, you know what, we think we're going to do those walkthrough things you showed us.
Super.
And, yeah.
So,
I love that you two are ready to fight for this and that you are here to make the provocative statements. I love that. But I do think people might feel like they're drowning 5 years from now. If you're not at least exploring and understanding and keeping up to terms with it, because it's going to rapidly increase and improve, and all the updates are just going to keep coming. And I feel like if you don't start exploring it now and getting your head wrapped around it a little bit, it might be hard to catch up in the future. And then you're going to be really upset or see financial differences in the future. So I'd encourage people to, really just start learning, exploring, and understanding what's out there.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Yeah.
I get to talk to a who's who of real estate organizations, and it's companies that you read about in the headlines and you admire. And while I can't tell who they are and what they're doing, I can tell you they're thinking forward, they're thinking differently, they're embracing some of these technologies. Talk to them, be curious, because when they start announcing and showing what they're doing, it will move the market. And you're either going to talk now, just like you said, and be thinking about your strategy and be ready when the time's right, or you're going to be even further behind. And so I think it's just, like you said, just engaging and talking and thinking is a step in the right direction. You don't necessarily have to buy something right now, but just start thinking about your strategy and how it could impact you as it becomes much more mainstream.
Super. With that, I think that's a wonderful way to end this conversation. To you all, I just want to say thank you so much for such an engaging and insightful and candid conversation like we've had this afternoon. It's been really, really brilliant. To Dorian, to Edward, to Sam, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. For those of you, if this was your first time at The Pulse, it was great to have you, and we look forward to seeing you again. And with that, goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.